All right, we have a quorum to begin.
All right, so I'll open it up to public comment, and I see in the chat that Karen has a public comment, so I will turn it over to Karen.
Hi, thanks very much. I was not able to watch the entire video from your meeting in July, and I appreciate that you were discussing where I had to leave off in order to join this meeting, full disclosure, that you were discussing the importance of your conveying your point of view as a commission to the police chief, so that final disposition in terms of discipline for the officers in the case of the young white driver who was not disciplined whenever that was, a year ago, I think. And I just want to underscore that I applaud you for pushing back on EPD on this and continually sending it back. I don't disagree that the investigation is thorough at this point. I agree with many of you, if not all of you, that the disposition was not sufficient. I don't know what happened at the end of your meeting. And it is precisely this, you are representatives for the entire city of Evanston in providing structured and official, if you will, feedback from the citizens' point of view. And you've got such a great breadth of experiences as attorneys, as former law enforcement officers, as city leaders. And I just want to make sure that you know that there are people out here who are counting on you to stand firm on that and make sure that your voice is heard by the chief, who has the final say on this. And I say this as I hope Commander Glew knows, with complete respect for the work of the department. But when errors are made, this transparency, at least insofar as it gets to you all, is critical. And so please keep doing that. And again, kudos for doing so much so far. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Karen. Appreciate the feedback.
Any other public comment? If so, please unmute yourself. Okay, with that said.
Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. And the singular item up under new business is a review of complaint register 21-01. And I will turn it over to, I think, Commander Glew to give the summary of that.
I'm actually going to turn this over to Sergeant Wernick. This was primarily his investigation, and for efficiency's sake and making the best of everybody's time, I would probably be deferring a lot of it to him anyway, but I will be here to assist.
All right. Good evening, everybody. So this case came from April 18th of this year. It was a differential response call, which is a telephone call where officers don't respond in person. It was handled over a cell phone. It was a telephone harassment complaint. The victim and her aunt spoke with the officer regarding a harassment by an ex-paramour, actually ex-paramour's current wife. The complainant informed the officer she was afraid for her safety, and the officer said this would be followed up on by a detective, the initial call. 3 days later, the officer called the complainant from his personal cell phone and told her that he was checking up on her. He suggested that they meet for coffee. The complainant agreed to meet outside of her residence, believing that he was there to discuss the case. The complainant said the officer was in plain clothes in his personal automobile, which we know is true. The complainant entered the vehicle to discuss the case, and at some point, the officer advised her he was a single man, which upset her. She became uncomfortable with the encounter and said she had to go to work and left the vehicle. And it was confirmed that the officer was off duty during this incident. And that's the general gist of the investigation.
All right. And so from there, I know we've all reviewed the complaint register. Any feedback and comments? I guess before we do that, I want to note that the final review by the findings and recommendations from the deputy chief found violations of rules 1, 2, 3, 20, 38, and Lexipol 321.5.4. And the recommended actions were 2 days of suspension with options, mandatory ethics training, and then 3 months of probationary extension. So with that said, I'll turn it over for anyone who has comments on the findings and recommendations of this CR.
I guess I'm gonna interject. I don't have any problem with the findings. I think the investigation, thank you very much, Commander Glew and new Commander Wernick. You guys did an incredibly thorough investigation of this. And I think it made it really easy for all of us to review and get the full picture of it. My issue is not really actually even with this case. I think the final disposition from the chief is appropriate. My issue is with consistency, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I'm going to beat a dead horse for a minute because I can. It's just inconsistent. We have a rookie officer. He did something unprofessional, out of line, inconsistent with his training and what he knows what to do, and the entire book is thrown at this guy. But we just watched in our July case, as Karen just brought up, a white female officer walk away completely unscathed, no problems. Everything was blamed on. She's new, she doesn't understand the ropes, and all the officers with her, no problem there for them to be bystanders. So I guess I have a little bit of a problem that he was originally looking at 11 days of suspension with options. That was knocked down to 2. Yes, he said he was single, but he said that in context of he's a single father. My daughter just went to college and got the exact same speech from the head of security, that he's a single man and a father of daughters, and that he's going to treat those girls like he's going to treat everyone else. My other issue with this case is that we are looking at a young woman who is the daughter and, am I understanding this correctly, the daughter and niece of NYPD sergeants? Is that correct, Sergeant Wernick?
No, she's the daughter of a NYPD sergeant. I don't know what the aunt does for a living. I didn't get that information.
So again, this is my soapbox moment. I would think that any daughter that Doug has, I have a college age daughter. Commander Glew, I can't remember how, if you got daughters or sons, but our kids are different. And some of the language in this, that she is afraid and triggered and traumatized by a police officer approaching her in a professional manner. This whole case seemed a little inconsistent. And I am a woman who is believing other women, and I validate her feelings with whatever happened with this officer. And I am not condoning him going someplace off duty to check up on someone when that is not his job to do. But it does seem like he was being a little bit overzealous and not hitting on her. And now he's facing suspension and 3 more months of probation. It's appropriate, but let's start fresh, I guess. Now we We made ourselves heard in July, but let's start fresh because this is completely inconsistent with our July case. If this is what's appropriate, I'm good with that. But it's just inconsistent with what we saw last case. Completely inconsistent. He's got 7 months on the job. I believe the officer on the last one had 4 or 5 months on the job, and everything was blamed with her not knowing how things go because she's new to the job. Well, so's this guy. So I don't know. That's it. That's my soapbox. I will mute myself because I'm gonna keep going. So I'm just gonna mute myself.
If I could,
Oh,
I'm
go ahead. No, go ahead, Commander Glew.
I just wanted to, well, there is going to be another layer of review of this case that will be with the chief. This is before the chief reviews it. You guys look at it, make sure that it's complete. We have this meeting, then Chief Barnes will ultimately make the decision for final discipline. So maybe some consistency issues may be worked out at that level. And as far as the 2 investigations go, this investigation was done primarily by Sergeant Wernick and then with my assistance. So it is done with from OPS, where the last investigation we had was a DI. So it was largely done at the patrol level. We are going to be working with our patrol officer or patrol sergeants and commanders to bring up some of that consistency. And Kimberly and I and Aaron have already started working on that. So consistency is also a concern for us.
Thank you.
I just want to say, Shahna, I completely hear you on the consistency point. I think, and I don't know, I don't have any direct insight into this, but just looking at it from my vantage point, I think the potential difference in how these were treated is that there could have been some legal ramifications if this hadn't received any kind of disciplinary action versus the situation with the officer basically, not following through on protocol. They're potentially, so that could explain some of the difference in treatment. Not saying that that's proper, and I think, as we've discussed ad nauseum, that there should have been disciplinary action against the officer in the previous case, but just wanted to bring up that that could have been the reason why this one was given some sort of different treatment. I do have a question though for I guess Sergeant or Commander Wernick regarding the difference in the recommended actions between, I think, the patrol sergeant and then as it progressed to the patrol commander and then the deputy chief. So the initial recommendation was 21 days of suspension, 11 with options and 10 without. And then it got knocked down to, I think, 2 days with options. Is there an explanation for the, where that
Yeah, I mean, a 21-day suspension, Commander Glew and I had talked about this, and just to reiterate, OPS doesn't have any saying in discipline being administered. We don't decide. That being said, 21 days and Commander Glew we've spoke at length about this, and it's his belief, and I do agree with him, that if you're going to suspend a probationary officer for nearly a month, you should be seeking termination. And I don't know that this is egregious enough for a termination. I think what this is a learning curve, and there was a mistake. I think, we want this officer to learn, and have you listened to the phone call? We haven't listened to that yet, have we? I think we should probably listen to that too. I don't know what you think, Commander.
Won't be able to this evening as we are not able to go into executive session.
Oh, okay. Very good. Well, as you can see from the investigation, he was pretty professional. I listened to the whole the call. He was super professional. So it's not the issue for me with the discipline. The 21 days seems pretty harsh. I think 2 days is more in line. Now, whether the chief agrees with that or not, that's up to her for final determination. But, you know, I think to the sergeant, as a newly minted sergeant who decided the 21 days. So there's also a learning curve there as well, as far as how you discipline.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if there was some kind of like protocol, you know, if it's this category, if there's a certain number of days, or whether the 21 is just something.
No,
that-
it's not
We'll just
like
pull
a
out of-
chart. We don't
Okay.
go like, oh, you lost a finger, you get, you know, 10 grand type of thing. It's kind of, we try to be consistent. We look at past discipline that's been administered and try to keep it consistent with that.
Got
Sorry,
it.
Commander.
Yeah, I know, a lot of exactly what Aaron said. We want independent review of these things as they go through the process. That's going to bring a number of different perspectives to it, but sometimes that does lend itself where we're going to have some outliers. And yeah, I think 21 days is an outlier. Probationary employees that are committing violations worthy of a 21-day suspension are probably earning themselves a termination. I think objectively, this is not a 21-day suspension. We're more in line with what it is, and 21 days would be hard to defend in front of an objective third party.
Got it, thank you. And can you just explain briefly what the with and without options portion of it is?
Sure. So with options is that means the suspension time can be taken from your comp bank. So you have comp time holiday bank. You can give time and actually work. So you're losing time. So you are losing money, but a hard suspension day with no options means you don't come to work and that doesn't hit your paycheck.
Oh.
So it's you'll see a lot of times it's, half and half, or, with options, if it's not something super egregious or it's a first time, it'll go to, hard without options when it ends up being, repeat violations.
Also, hard days will push your anniversary date back. So if you have a hard suspension day, or how many hard suspension days you have throughout your career, it pushes your credible time back. Some agencies, I don't know how it was with the state police, Doug, and some agencies don't do that. There's a certain threshold you have to hit. We are day for day. Any hard day you take, you have to make up for credible service.
So, yeah, I agree that the investigation was thorough, and I agree with the recommendation and the findings in here. Any input from anybody else on this one?
I didn't have anything additional, but I agree with you and Shahna that the investigation was appropriate. And I think that the discipline that was handed down was appropriate as well.
And Kimberly, just a quick question on the executive session portion of it. Is it because we don't have the little blurb to read on the agenda, or it has to be?
It needs to be noticed on the agenda. So the blurb
Oh.
it can be done verbally, but because it was on an executive session, as a part of the agenda.
Okay.
Again, I appreciate Glew for getting this out, because again, I was not able to do so. But in the future, we'll make sure
And I'll
that
take
happens.
responsibility for that not being on there.
And I know Aaron's having some Wi-Fi problems, a little pixelated. So I'm just going to touch on the video or the real quick and give you a quick 101. The video itself did not capture the, since it was off duty, did not capture the actual area of the complaint, but it gave a little background as to their first contact. And their first contact was very business, was very professional. I would say that there was no indication given by the complainant at the time that she was making the report that this was there was nothing along the lines of hey, give me a call later, something initiating contact later. The call was very professional on both ends, and there was nothing in there to facilitate him making contact with her later.
Was, did anyone have a need to see the video before we vote on moving this to the Human Resources Committee?
It's just audio, and I think that the the report was really thorough and talked about how professional he was in the audio. So I think what we're missing is the part where he calls her up and the conversation that they had after that. But again, a very thorough report, very thorough recordings of what they both had to say afterwards. It's not really for us to figure out whether or not his intentions were clear or not. But I don't think if this was a female officer who did what he did, that it would be perceived very differently. But I do think, again, back to what I said, that the 2-day suspension with options and the 3 months of added time and definitely the mandatory ethics training is really appropriate. So I support, those findings, and I think that I'm ready to move it forward to the chief that we are in agreement with this if everyone else is.
I'm in total agreement with you, Shahna. I think everything you said tonight has been spot on.
All right, so will someone make a motion that we move CR 2101 on to, I guess it goes to HRC first, right?
I'd like to move to send 2102 to HRC.
It goes to the chief of police first
Chief.
and then the HSC.
RC, yeah.
Okay, to the chief of police.
Well, we're just
Whatever
asking you
movement.
to move we're just moving for thoroughness that you all all agree that the CR 2101 has been thoroughly reviewed.
Yes.
So if we can make a motion for the review, thoroughness of the review, and then we can have a second of that.
Tina, can you remake the motion?
So-
Sorry.
I'd like to move that we confirm that CR 2102 has been thoroughly investigated and reviewed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Say nay.
I'm gonna do a roll call just because we're virtual, and I'll acknowledge the people who are here first. Doug,
Yes.
Jamal,
Here.
yes or yay or nay?
Yeah.
Blanca,
Yes.
Shahna,
Aye.
Nyika,
Yes.
all right, Janitha, Nico, and Rick and Clarence are not present to vote. So with that, this has been approved to move forward for the chief's review.
All right, the next item on the agenda is old business, which we have none.
I have a
Um,
couple items or
yeah, I was gonna
announcements
say
to
that
make
over
under
here.
that. I just want to acknowledge, we have two members of our committee leaving us this evening, and one being Jamal. Jamal has been with us at the beginning of this iteration of this new committee. His term is now up, and so with all his great life accomplishments moving forward, we wish you, Jamal, the best of luck with school and so forth. And we hope to see you around, still engaged and involved. And also to currently Sergeant, but very soon Commander Aaron Wernick for his help in standing up this committee over the last year. He's been wonderful, a colleague to work with. And we really appreciate how you've been able to really help us navigate as we try to do the best we can as a committee and commission. And then lastly, I want to invite and introduce Sergeant Charlotte Hart, who will be taking over in OPS and will be attending our meetings in the future. She is the new Erin, but she is not. She is she is Charlotte, but has been a great colleague to work with in previous iterations of our interactions. So I know she will be a wonderful addition to this committee. And so she will be taking over Erin's role and making sure you guys are informed and provided with the materials prior to meetings. And again, we look forward to working with you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
That's it. That's all I have to report.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, with that, we are adjourned.
If I could just real quick, Jamal, thank you very much for your service. It was a pleasure working with you, and welcome Sergeant Hart and Aaron. The last time I worked with a Commander Wernick, we were starting NORTAF, so I know somebody who'd be very, very proud of you. Somebody who is very proud
Thank
of you.
you.
I'll be proud to know you as the next Commander Wernick in line.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And Ryan, maybe we can give him a nickname like we did to his dad. We'll work on that.
Real quickly, I'm sorry, I can't talk about this when we adjourn, but we have finishing up one internal investigation now. I don't know if it's going to be through the review process for the October meeting. It is a little bit longer than normal, so we may want to give you guys a little bit more time to review. Aaron?
I have a CR and a DI that'll be done as well. So I don't know with all three of those, because that one CR is super long.
I know the one that I'm wrapping up now probably will not be ready for review by October. Aaron, do you feel that there will be anything ready for October?
There may be those two. I should have those done tomorrow and in the process. So if it can get back from patrol, we should be good.
All right, so I guess we'll have stuff for October and then we'll have stuff for November.
Anything changes, we will keep you posted. Okay, with that, the next meeting will be October 6, 2021. And at 6:30, it will again probably still be virtual if we continue to be in the world we're in currently. With that being said, I would give it over to tonight's chair to adjourn the meeting.
All right, well, Jamal, thank you for your service on the committee, and best of wishes to you in the future. And Sergeant Hart, welcome. And with that, we are adjourned.
Great.
Hi, everyone.